Welcome to Ready to Be Romance. I'm Tori.
And I'm Kelly.
And today we're discussing
Ice Planet
Barbarians.
I tried so hard.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Kelly, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to talk about this book with you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I feel like this book is a little bit weird. It's really like not what people expect it's going to be in a way. So I'm very excited to talk about it. I have very few people I can talk about this book with because like when are you going to bring this up in conversation?
No, seriously. And I first heard you podcasting with Rob and Akiva of Rob and Akiva Need a Podcast. And you were doing like a Turing test with them. And you used Ice Planet Barbarians as one of the like tricks of like, is this a real book or did AI make this up?
Yeah, I mean, it really does sound like it could be AI, especially like just reading the back of it and reading like a little summary. It truly does not sound real. And the fact that it's so popular and has spun off so many other books is truly wild.
Truly wild. I don't know if this is true, but it definitely feels like the most popular like paranormal monster romance book that, there ever was.
Yeah, I feel like it really goes to show people that first of all, there's something out there for everyone. Like
Totally.
if you think of like, is there a sexy version of this? Like, yes, there will be. There's probably a million of them. And number two, like sexy aliens can be the top book talk book, you know? You just never know what's gonna hit with people.
Totally. And I also just feel like it just feels new and refreshing to talk about a book like this. Not that like I feel like in the romance genre it's like romance has been around forever, so it's not like conversations about romance novels are new, but like I feel like some of the like unabashed like just not stigmatized, not embarrassing. It's a little embarrassing, but like conversations that are happening online are really like new and fresh and fun. So
Yeah, and I think there's some stuff here that it makes sense why people are clinging on to this book
yes,
for
yes.
sure in like this current, reality. I think it
Yes,
definitely makes
yes.
sense why people would want a book like this where it's kind of like cotton candy almost for the brain.
Yes.
Nothing really, well, aside from the beginning, nothing bad really happens.
100%. It's definitely like pure escapism. And like, I feel like you could do, and like maybe we'll touch on some of the points of like some of the things that happen. But like, if you didn't want to do that, you could just read it for like pure enjoyment. And you're right. It's like kind of escapism in like a bleak world right now. And like, also, I've always said this on the podcast, but like if you're like hating men, if you're in an era of hating men, monster romance is a perfect thing to pick up. Like,
Which sounds really crazy when you think about it.
yeah,
Like, no,
literally.
I would rather fuck a literal monster, actually.
No, it's very like bear versus man conversation. Oh my
Yeah.
God. That's so funny. So have you been like a lifelong reader?
Yeah, ever since I can remember, I've been reading. I definitely remember like I'm sure tons of people reading Harry Potter was probably like the first kind of long series that I read, but all through high school, Twilight was coming out when I was in high school, so
Love.
that was an era for me. And then yeah, just after that, I've always kind of been reading something, even if it was taking me months and months to finish a book. I feel like I always had something on the go. So yeah, and romance especially, I think I always end up coming back to. It's like one of my favorite genres. It's just so fun.
It's so fun. Yeah. Yeah, it is. What type of like subgenres do you like in romance or what type of tropes do you like reading?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm mostly focused on like the characters. I don't even know if I ha necessarily have a favorite trope. I think it goes back and forth. I love an enemies to lovers, but then I love a friends to lovers. The only thing I hate is like the accidental pregnancy. That's not for me, which kind of
Yes.
was
Which
a
kind of
yeah, we'll
yeah.
kind of get into that.
Yeah,
But
literally.
but
Yeah.
I feel like I'm pretty open to anything in terms of like subgenres. I've been reading a lot recently, other than this book. I've been reading a lot of like gothic romance. It's like a bit slower paced paced, and I like it when it has like a bit of like a mystery. Maybe it's just because it's
Yes.
cold outside now. I feel like I'm like
Yes, yes.
cozying up, you know?
Yes.
But yeah, that's a big one for me. I've read a couple other like paranormal romances, which we can talk about too, which are very fun. But yeah, I'm pretty open. But yeah, I kind of love it all.
Yeah, me too. It's fun to bounce around because then you never get tired. Like I've got definitely gone through periods where it's like, okay, I'm reading like all sports romances and I'm like, okay, like gotta switch it up and
Yeah.
like that type of thing. But it does always keep you interested, engaged because there's just so many different types of books out there.
Yeah, and I find when you read like one type of romance, a lot of the times you just start being able to predict what's going to happen. Like the
Yes,
same thing happened to
yeah.
me. I was in like a mystery era for a while. I was just reading all these thrillers, and it's like after a while, it's like, okay, well, it was obviously, blah 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 did it because you can just kind of figure it out. So I feel like
Yeah.
it's nice to come to a an alien romance where it's like, I don't know. I don't even know what this person's genitalia is going to look like. Like it's a surprise at every turn.
No, that's so true. But I'm really glad that you brought that up because I think that that's one of the like criticisms of the romance genre is like people like it's formulaic and it's like, babe, what like a mystery novel, like a murder mystery is
Yeah.
formulaic. So I don't get that unfair criticism.
No, people are just being lazy if that's their criticism.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, spoiler warning, we're going to be talking about Ice Planet Barbarians, but we're not going to talk about anything that happens after that. And I want to give a content warning at the top of the
Yes.
episode.
Big one.
A big one, which I like didn't read and was like, oh, this is going to be like fluffy and fun and was like shook to my core when I
I
read
forgot
it.
that this was
Yes,
in this book.
yes,
I
yes.
straight up
Yeah.
feel like I probably wouldn't have used this as an example if I remembered, but it kind of just comes and goes very quickly. It's like very tonally
100%.
weird, but anyways,
It
continue.
does not make sense for the book, I feel like. But there is obviously like an alien abduction and then a threat of human trafficking, a forced abortion, and a sexual assault at the beginning of the book, and some scenes with non-con. So take care if you're listening or if you're reading. And if you want to skip all this, apparently Ruby Dixon, the author, took the first few chapters out of like the new hard copy. So if you're
Oh,
reading the ebook or listening to the audiobook, all of that is still in there. But I feel like you can skip it till
yeah.
when she gets trapped by Vectel, truly.
Yeah, I feel like it's, you don't need it. You really
You
don't need it. It
truly
really feels
don't.
like a different book.
So let's get into the plot. It was a book published in April 3rd of 2015, and it does I kind of feel like it's of its time, I would say.
Definitely. Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. I'm also like, it's so close to April Fool's Day. I wonder if people were like, is this real? They're
That's
like,
so
when
funny.
did that post go up? Like,
Yeah, that's so true. My God. But yeah, every time I pictured the girls, I pictured them in like 2015 clothing.
yeah. I feel like a lot of the references, there's not too many cultural references, but the ones that there are, it does feel very 2015.
Very 2015. So we meet our main protagonist, Georgie, and she has woken up in what looks like a cargo bay of an alien spaceship. And she's in like kind of like a holding cell with a bunch of other women. She's like obviously really out of it. She notices a bump in her arm, which she assumes is like a tracking device. She's with a bunch of other girls who are like scared and they know like varying degrees of kind of what's happening, but they don't have the whole picture.
Yeah, it kind of slowly unfolds over the first little bit. Yeah, Georgie is kind of like lost in life, it seems. She has like kind of a
Yeah.
dead-end job. So it's funny because it feels to me like she's angry that she's been abducted, but she's not as angry as like I would be
Yes,
personally.
yes,
She's like,
yeah.
"Oh, this kind of sucks." It's like, "Okay, girl, this isn't like a fender bender. Like you got abducted by
Yes,
aliens." And
yes.
she's mad, but not that mad about it.
No, 100%. She like, I'm like, you were finding out that aliens exist. Well, like hard proof that
Yeah.
aliens exist. You have been taken to Earth with like pretty much no chance of going back, and you are being human trafficked. But you like are taking it kind of in stride. Like,
Yeah, she takes it very well. Truly, truly very well. Yeah, and I like the fact that they are kind of figuring it out all together. I feel like the fun thing about the group of women, and probably why there's so many books after this following each of them, they all kind of immediately like form a little sisterhood, which is nice, and they do seem to get along for the most part. Well, there's a couple people who maybe don't, but yeah, they all just kind of try and help each other. Which is how they try and hatch an escape plan to get out of this
Yes.
situation.
An escape feels like nigh at this point, but when there's like a chance for them to escape, there's like turbulence on the aircraft, and they're able to like distract the aliens that have abducted them and like take one of their weapons, and they like Georgie straight up kills
Yeah.
one of the aliens.
She beats him to death with like his
I
own
know.
gun.
With his own gun, like describing like her hitting his skull. I was like, I also felt this. Like, this book feels like a novella without
Yes.
actually being a novella, because I was like, she did not process like, and like obviously the guard, it's not a good person or even a person at that, but
Literally, yeah.
like, but I'm like, you still killed something, and like, again, does not bat a fucking eye.
No. Which like I guess good for you. That you can compartmentalize so well.
Yes. Yes.
They also do see one of the other women who is like sexually assaulted by a bunch of the aliens, which is insane. And I feel like they're like upset, but like again, Georgie doesn't get like that upset about it. She's not
No.
joking about it or anything, but to me, I'm like, you should be horrified. But yeah, if you're wondering what we were talking about with the sexual assault, it happens right at this point, right
Right at
before
the
this.
start. And they are being treated like they are like peeing in like a corner.
Yeah, literally like cattle.
Yes. It's so not sexy for like a sexy book.
Yeah.
Like, actually, this whole thing, I'm like, you guys are eating raw meat and
Yeah.
like, and haven't bathed in like months, but it's
That
that's
might, I
beside the
mean, that's probably
point.
sexy to some people. The raw meat thing, I
Yeah.
don't know. Like
Yeah.
there's some stuff going on Instagram that I can't even get into, but
So yeah, they end up like crashing. It's so turbulent that the spacecraft crashes onto like a desolate, wintry planet.
yeah.
And obviously the girls are like, we have no idea how we're gonna survive this.
Yeah, it's looking pretty bleak.
Yeah.
The book is also extremely short. I don't know if we mentioned that at the beginning, but obviously, we haven't met the sexy aliens yet, so we know they're coming. We just don't
Yes.
know how yet or when. But yeah, Georgie ends up taking charge. Everyone really kind of, because of the fact that she killed the alien and she's just kind of been so gung-ho about all this, they kind of let her become the leader. So she decides, or they decide for her, that she's gonna go outside. So she takes off all the dead guards, his suit,
This
and she
is so,
climbs up out
yeah.
of this crashed ship, and she's in this like barren, mountainy planet that's very snowy.
It's very snowy. Which this is a fool's errand, or like a fool's mission, because why are you like, she is the de facto leader because of her heroic like escape, I
Murder.
guess. Murder, like it, literal murder. But I was like, you leaving the spaceship like and going out into like the Arctic is crazy. Like, that's like guaranteed for you to just like get hypothermia and die.
Yeah, I mean, she says at the beginning she works like a very boring job at like a bank. And I'm kind of like, like just give up then. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah,
you already said you hate your life, and I'm like,
yeah,
you're really
yeah,
trying so hard to survive here.
yeah.
Like, go off, girl. But it is like very funny that she's like, I hate my life back home, and then she goes on this insane adventure and somehow ends up being the one who kind of does all of the adventuring for everyone.
Truly, truly. And so they named the planet not, is it not Hoth?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, because it looks like the planet Hoth from Star Wars. Are you a Star Wars girly?
Yeah, I've definitely like I've seen all the Star Wars many times. I not famously, I guess famously in my family, I like watched one of the Star Wars movies when I was like a little kid, and I cried when Han Solo got frozen in carbonite. Like,
Okay, okay.
spoiler alert for anyone who doesn't
Yeah, I
know.
haven't watched the series.
So yeah, but I do love Star Wars. Hoth is just like a big wintry planet where they have like, you've probably seen pictures of like the giant robot things that they have, and they have like big woolly creatures, which we'll get to because Ruby Dixon is kind of obsessed with Star Wars, so she does
Yes,
mention it a
yes.
lot.
Yeah, like too much. Like, isn't there a point where Georgie is talking to Vectel about like, oh, you like she makes like a Star Wars reference and she's like, oh, you haven't watched that? It's like, where the fuck would he have watched that? That's insane.
Also, he lives in like he's like an alien. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, what do you mean?
well, of course he has not watched Star Wars,
So funny.
yeah, so she's a big Star Wars girl, clearly.
Yes, yes. And so she heads out, she leaves the women behind, and like the women are like, gaining more information as the time goes on. Like they realize they're all of similar age. They all like don't have much family or like friends and like live alone and stuff like that. So they're like, okay, clearly they like had a specific mission. But I think this also is good because they become like fast friends because they're so similar in so many different ways. This is like she is walking away, like the most safety, but the girls have to survive like with truly nothing,
Yeah.
with also like two dead girls that like died in the crash. Like
Yeah.
I maybe would prefer Georgie's task of going to find help. I don't know.
Yeah. They do at least like they do say they have food. So
Yeah,
at least they've
yeah.
got that.
The seaweed bars.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they've got something, but yeah, she does leave her friends kind of like I don't know. We'll get into more of her like going away, but I'm like, girl, you gotta get back.
Yeah, yeah, I know. She
What
takes
about
some
your
detours.
friends?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she takes some detours that are confusing to say the least. Yeah, so she heads out. She sees like a stream. She's like, oh my gosh, like a water source. But there's like fish that are, I guess, like piranhas that
Yeah.
are trying to attack her. And obviously that's like really scary. And she kind of gets like confused and she walks into a hunter's snare and gets snatched up and like
Yeah.
gets knocked out.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and at this point it's clear that we're about to meet the sexy
Yes,
alien.
yes, yes. And so it's dual POV. So we kind of switched to Vectel's POV here, who is a large blue alien with glowing eyes and horns. And he's like, what the fuck is this strange creature that I've caught in my trap? Especially when his like life source, like
Yeah.
he's like there's a thing that the girls call a cootie,
Yes.
but I'm pretty sure it's Kui.
That's what I think it would be too. I should have tried the audiobook to see. But
I was thinking the exact
Okay,
same thing.
okay.
And I tried to look up some like TikToks and like some I was like, this isn't on the Wikipedia. Like this seems like such a no-brainer to do. But the aliens that live on this planet have this thing within them that's kind of like, I don't know, it like protects them from the cold and like it helps them heal very quickly, but it also like resonates, which is like where it hums when it's identified its mate.
Yes. Yeah, so you can kind of see where this is going.
Yes, yes.
But yes, his
Yes.
Quee is resonating when he sees Georgie, even though he doesn't really know that she's a human or anything like that, but he's extremely excited when he
Yeah.
finds her because of this. But he's stressed out because she does not have a Quee and she seems very weak and he doesn't know what kind of creature that she is or anything like that.
Yeah. Which I kind of did like this backstory that like the aliens, they're also not from this planet and their ship crashed here like I think it was like 300 years ago or something like that. So they found out that they need a Quee to survive. And so there is kind of like this, oh, like I can help this person because we've done it before.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of like good things that were planned for this book, clearly, because there's that part of it where they need to help her to survive and the other girls theoretically. And then also the fact that there's too many men in
Yeah, oh my
Vectel's
God.
tribe.
Yeah. That like
He's
kills
also
me.
excited because he's like, oh, like there's not enough women to mate with. So the fact that he found this randomly found this woman is like a huge deal because where else is he gonna find a mate? And he doesn't even know about the other girls.
Yes, yeah, and he's thrilled when he finds
Yeah.
that out. Yeah, that's not, yeah, you're right. That's the other problem is that they're worried that his like tribe is going to become extinct because they're not producing enough offspring. And you need the queen to provide an offspring. Yeah, there's more men than there is women.
Yeah, and she needs the Quee to survive or else she'll die of like gas poisoning from the planet,
Yes,
basically.
yes, yes. So, okay, just wait. If you need the queen, because I was like, I guess that makes sense because then the women couldn't mate with more than one person because you need the queen and it is with your mate, I guess.
I don't know. At the end of the book, there's like the thing that he's like, oh, like we mate for life. But I feel like it isn't explicitly said that it's only one person. I feel like
Yeah,
Ruby
yeah.
Dixon's like, I bet she's writing threesomes in those later books. I would be
Yes,
shocked if there
yeah.
isn't a bunch of alien stuff going on.
There has to be like if you have 21 books in a series,
Yeah.
you're progressively getting you're definitely progressing like
Yeah.
yeah.
And more people keep crashing on the planet. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So he takes this strange creature to a hunter's cave. He's feeling this overwhelming need to mate. So he starts going down on her. This is like the I actually like I think threw my Kindle across the room
It
because
is wild. It quite literally goes from 0 to 100.
100%. And it's just like, it's so. It's just funny because, like, usually I feel like so many romance books or, like, even smut, like, is like, there is. They make all these, like, excuses to, like, get the characters together. And it's like,
Yeah.
in this one,
No,
no need.
he's
Like,
just like, I'm going down on her, and that's it. And it's like, oh, okay. I'm glad I wasn't listening to the audiobook because I feel like I would have laughed so loud. Like,
um,
I don't know what I would have done listening to the audio of this.
I was shook. And I've read crazy books. I don't know why this just like threw me off so much. But she wakes up. She's like, someone's going down on me with, and he has horns and a ribbed tongue. There's always something going on that is ribbed. Like, one of my favorite lines from the book
Oh my
that
God.
I pulled, it wasn't a monster come to eat me. It was this monster who's come to eat me out.
Yeah, there's a lot of just like one-liner, like Ruby Dixon wrote that and like was like, that was a good one.
That was a sleigh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like confused, obviously, but she's like also really enjoying it. He like wants to mate with her. So he wants to like have sex with her, have penetrative sex. I guess they're already having sex. And she like stops him because she was like, oral sex is one thing, but P and V is a whole other story.
Yeah, again, she doesn't know what that P is gonna look like. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's
Yeah.
a solid, you gotta like at least get a visual on the alien P before you go forward, I think.
I think that's fair. We get like a more like accurate or detailed description of Vectel that he's bluish gray. He has a black mane, a rugged face, ridges on his nose and his arms and his brow, and he has blue glowing eyes with no pupils.
Yeah.
He's 7 feet tall with a tail.
Yeah, he's a big guy. He
Yeah.
reminds me, well, I kind of like said this in my things that I have wrong with this book, but it really sounds like just Navi from Avatar, like
No,
big time.
literally, literally, which makes a lot of sense because Avatar came out in what 2010,
Yeah, I think so. I
2009.
think maybe 2009. But
Yes.
yeah, it's rough.
It is probably on her mind. But yeah, the tail, the hair, the blue skin feels very Avatar.
Yeah, it also like Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen vibes.
Yep, very much that. Yeah.
But maybe I'm
She
just
and
naming blue people.
yeah,
The Smurfs.
yeah.
Papa Smurf.
No. Yeah, yeah. And I think she does take a lot of inspo in her books, which is it's fun to try to like guess what inspired this like fever dream of a book.
But yeah, she does stop him. They kind of like try and like move forward and he still wants to help her, but they can't understand each other because obviously he speaks another language, because English hasn't made it this far in the galaxy, I imagine.
Yeah.
But they kind of find a way to exchange names with each other the best that they can.
Yeah. I found this like really endearing and cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he calls her Shorzy and she calls him like Hoptel.
Yeah. No, it's sweet. I feel like this is the part like these parts of the this part of the book and like anytime where there's like them trying to communicate and like them just being like very sweet, like it is very smutty, this book. It's clearly like they just, Ruby Dixon just wanted to find a way to get some people to fuck some aliens, which is great. But there's a lot of like heart here too. It's very
Totally, totally. In that way, it's well balanced.
Yeah.
Vectel's like, okay, this girl's still sick. I need to like provide for her. So she's like able to sleep in the warmth of the furs, which is probably the first time in, days. And he like hunts for her and brings her back the spicy meat. And she's trying to tell him like, we need to go back to the ship. There's other women here, but because he can't understand her, they don't make much progress.
Yeah, he really is just focused on taking her back to his tribe so that he can be like, look, I have a mate, and getting her the Quee so that she doesn't die. But obviously her main focus is trying to get back to her friends.
Yeah.
So yeah, he kind of shows her a bunch of stuff like how to, get rid of those fish she saw earlier. And then she kind of is like, okay, we need to go back. So she kind of like implies that she's gonna sleep with him if they go back up the mountain.
Yeah.
And he's into that.
Yeah, what did you think of that?
I mean, I was gonna say it's very hard to believe, but I'm like, we're talking about sexy alien smut, so I guess everything here is. It felt like a little bit like this whole part where like she wakes up and he's going down on her. A lot of it to me felt a little like we need a bit more backstory about her because I'm like, we don't know anything about like is she very like sexually forward or anything like that? And then all of a sudden we just like, this is the first kind of couple of things that we learn about her. So that I felt like needs a bit more fleshing out.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a good plan.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. There's high stakes, so
Yeah.
you're gonna do whatever it takes to survive. That's fair. But yeah, this book lacks so much backstory that like, which is like fun if you want a book where you're like, I'm going to start it tonight and I'm going to get to the meat like of the book. Like this is the perfect book for you. But if you want like any world building or really know the characters, like this book is not for you.
Yeah, we just need like a bit more information on Georgie, I think. But
Yes.
she also is into Vectel. I feel like that's important to say. She's not just like promising she's gonna have sex with him, like, and like not gonna do it or anything. Like she does like him. She likes that he's taking care of her and he's been like very nice to her, which she appreciates.
Yes, yes. She feels like some type of safety around him. So, yeah, he like is teaching her stuff, but there's a point where Georgie thinks like, "Oh, like we're heading in the direction," which I have no idea how she remembered where the direction was, but we're like heading back to the direction of the ship. But they weren't doing that. They were doing something totally different. So she's like, again, trying to make him understand. And she ends up like falling down a huge crevasse. And it's filled with like creatures that resemble Wookiees that attack her. But Vectel's there to save the day.
Yeah, as usual. Vectel's really just like, he's just here. He's just here saving everybody.
Yes, yes. And okay, and then they decide, so he like takes her back to the cave and they like learn words, like different words for each other. And I was like, why didn't you guys do this day one? Like,
yeah, it really feels like missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I feel like she just kind of like yells at him and he like doesn't understand. And then she's like, well, that's the end of that. And it's like, no, you could
Yeah.
like,
And
you
she's like
could,
pissed at him.
yeah, it's like you
Yeah.
could definitely try a little bit harder. But,
Totally.
but yeah, they
I
do
felt
learn a
that.
couple of words, including some body parts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you kind of can see where it's going pretty quickly.
Yes, yes. Leads to them having sex. He has like a spur. Of
Yes.
course he does.
Yeah.
Which I just assumed was kind of like an Omega verse knot. Have you read any like Omega verse?
No, but that is I do know of the Omegaverse, and that's very funny.
Okay,
That's a
yeah.
thing in the in those books. Or
Yes,
those
yes.
types of books, I should say.
Yes, yes. This is classic monster.
I think it's just like important that like he is just like, his whole job is like to pleasure Georgie. And I think that's the main point of a lot of
Totally.
this.
Yeah, because by the end of the book, she's like, why would I leave? I have a guy that's like obsessed with me and like just lives to like make me happy. Why would I go back to Earth? And you know what? She's not
She's
wrong.
right. And she's
Yeah.
right.
So she's like okay with having sex with him, like unprotected sex, because there's no way that they could have a baby, obviously. But Vectel obviously knows otherwise and is like stoked that there is a chance that she could be pregnant.
Yeah, this is like I'm like, girl, why did you not think about this? I don't know like why you
Yeah.
wouldn't be like he's mostly human. It's not like he's
Yes.
like literally an animal. Like he looks like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
human and he knew to go down on you.
yeah,
Like he has
yeah,
some sort of human instincts, but
yeah,
she's only 22. So
yeah,
maybe like
yeah.
you
She's gone through a traumatic experience. She just wasn't thinking straight.
yeah.
I guess like the next day that Vectel goes to get them food and checks one of his hunting traps. And unfortunately, Dominique, one of the captives from the ship, is there and has died of hypothermia. And then he's like, "Oh, okay, there's more people like Georgie. She didn't like come alone." Which also I'm like, why would she come? How would she be there by herself?
Yeah.
Like,
It doesn't make any sense. It's like,
it makes
Bechdel, you
no
seem like
sense.
a pretty smart guy.
Yeah,
Use your
yeah.
noggin, my dude.
Yeah, yeah. But he's like, oh my God, like, we have to get her back to the ship. There's like probably other people that are in need.
Yeah.
And so they hurry back. And there's like 5 girlies remaining, and they're alive, but they are ill.
Yeah, they're in bad shape. They're definitely in bad shape. I mean, it's very cold. They're all sick and they don't know why, or a couple of them are sick at least. And again, they crashed from this original alien ship. So the aliens from before, the evil ones,
Yes.
we're assuming are coming back for them because they were the cargo who was going to be human trafficked. So the girls
Yeah.
have basically just been waiting, hoping that Georgie makes it back, and otherwise, like, they're essentially just waiting to be picked up by the bad aliens again.
And this is the part that like absolutely kills me because the girls see Georgie. She's kind of thriving at this
Yeah,
point.
she's like booed up.
Yeah. And they're like, what the, like, who the fuck is with you? And like, you went away for like 2 days or whatever, and you got an alien boyfriend that's obsessed with you.
We all have a friend like this, though. We all have
No,
that friend
that's so
who you go to the
true.
bar and like they
Yeah.
come back and they like have some guy who's like bought
Yep.
them dinner, like bought them a bunch of like pizza and is like, "Oh, I'm gonna like call your friends Ubers." Like we all have a friend like this.
That's so true. Or like they go on vacation. I'm not that friend, but
No,
like
me either.
you go on vacation and they have like a 2-week romance or whatever, and yeah, you're like, this is supposed to be a girls trip. But
Yeah. You're like, I don't want to get a new hotel room.
yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, so they're like learning about Vectel, and Kira, one of the girls on the ship, she had a translator, an alien translator like thing implanted in her ear. So she's actually able to finally know what Vectel is saying and translate it to Georgie. And so she's like, this guy thinks you're his mate and like is obsessed with you. And she's like, I'll deal with that later. Like, we gotta go get help and get you guys to like a safe place. But they can't like travel, the seven of them. So Vectel and Georgie head out to go get more hunters and supplies.
Yeah. Yeah. So they go on this trek. And on the way, they can't make it all the way back to Vectel's people. So they stop at this cave that Vectel seems to think is like his elder's cave, which I guess it is. But Georgie realizes that what he thinks are like, I can't remember exactly what he calls them, but like magical lights. She's like, no, my dude, this is a spaceship. It's just like behind some ice. So they melt the ice, and she realizes that, you know, this ship still has power and has a bunch of like buttons, and so she's like, what is happening?
Yeah, and this is like the funniest shit because so she's a language download.
Yeah.
And so she's able to now communicate with Vectel, and she like finds out kind of about his people and then about the planet and the Quee. And like that there's a time limit, like they have like 8 days and, you know, it's been 4 or whatever. So they gotta get Quees fast or like learn how to escape the planet. But the linguistic upload is one of the funniest things I've probably ever read. Like, I was just reading, I was like, of fucking course. Like,
it's so classic sci-fi though, where it's like, we don't know, like standalone sci-fi, I feel like a lot of the time does stuff like this, where it's like, we don't have time to like figure out how they're actually gonna talk to each other. It's like, just have her download his whole language. And like, okay, sure.
Like, yeah, that makes total sense. But again, why would it need to make sense when you are living on not Hoth? Like,
yeah, we're not here for that. Like, that's not what we're here for. Though I actually think this part is like one of the most compelling plot points in the whole book. The fact that like his people actually also crash landed on this planet is like very interesting.
Yes. And that like there's just a way for them to get more information. Because if the spaceship wasn't there, they would just be living in like the caves and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously they're stoked that they can now communicate with each other. And he can finally express that like that they're mates. And she's like, well, like in my culture we get to like choose our own mates and stuff like that. And he like really doesn't understand that because the Quee chooses. And he's like, it always chooses correctly. So I don't know why why you're having doubts about this situation.
He's like, I'm telling you, it's fine. But he's
totally
quite
fine.
Respectful. Like,
he is, yeah.
That's like kind of the funny thing about like this whole situation is like Vectel's just like very respectful the whole time. He's like, okay, then you can pick. It's okay. Like, don't worry about it. And he doesn't like pressure her, which I think is again why women like this book so much. 100%.
Also, like the barbarian, he's like maybe in looks a barbarian, but like not really, I guess, other than being like kind of like ultra male hunter and gatherer or whatever. But like other than that, he's like a respectful gentleman.
Yeah. It's very sweet.
Very sweet. So they reach his tribe and they live in like this interconnected group of caves. So she meets a bunch of other people. She gets healed by the tribe's healer. And they have sex, and she finally realizes, like, oh, I actually could be pregnant. Yeah, which was... again, she, like, takes it like a...
She's just like, okay.
Yeah, she's like, well, I didn't choose this, but, like, I could be happy with this. Oh my God.
She's probably just, like, you know... She's probably, like, one of those girls who's like, you know, I'm ready to be a mom. At 22.
Yeah. At 22.
She's ready.
Away from, yeah.
I'm on a different planet with a man you met 2 days ago.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm good. It's okay. We only just realized we can understand each other, like, today. But
yeah. And, like, my family won't be able to meet this kid. I'm never going to see my family again. Like, whatevs.
Yeah.
But Vectel rounds up the troops, and him and Georgie and some other male aliens head back to the ship. They get zapped. They all get the linguistic upload, and then they meet their hostages.
Yeah, they're very excited.
They're so excited because they're like, oh my God, we're gonna repopulate.
Yeah, they're like, we need girls. We need girlies.
We need girlies, and like you are a bunch of girlies. And it's so funny because there's like more girls that are
On
in like,
ice.
yes, like literally on ice. And the whole time Georgie's like, I can't tell him, I can't tell him. And then she like tells him, and he's like, oh no, this is amazing news. Like,
Yeah, yeah, there's six more girls, I think, who are like
yeah.
in the ship, but yeah, they are not awake yet. Which though that's rough for them, but
Yeah, the there's like literal two lines that are like, yeah, so they woke up and we told them everything. They cried a little bit, but then like
it
they
was
were
fine.
ready. Yeah, they were ready
Like,
to go.
to be fair though, like we don't know how long they were on the original alien ship, and I'm like waking up from a nap that long is probably like that's probably incredibly refreshing. Like you're probably
Yeah,
feeling so good when you wake up that you'd probably just like accept any kind of fate.
totally. And again, like when you're lost in space, the chances of getting home are slim. So like just they're really making the best of a bad situation.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to do your best.
Yeah, and they're like, oh my god, we're gonna get someone like Vectel, like each of us. Again, they're not complaining. So they are getting, yeah, food and clothes because they are not doing well. And Georgie explains the whole thing. They're going to need a Quee. They're going to get the language download from the Elder's Cave. And this will allow them to be able to like survive on this planet. There's like fear that the original scary aliens are going to come back. So they're like, hey, we gotta go get these Quee. And the way that they do this is the hunters, the male aliens go and kill a huge beast and like take these worm like
Yeah.
disgusting like parasitic things out of this beast's heart, and then they slice slice their neck open and put them in. Of course Georgie's like, they're like, okay,
You're
girl,
on
like,
first, bitch.
yeah, you're the fucking leader. Like, let's go. She's like, I really don't want to do this. But she does do it. And she faints. But when she wakes up, she's a lot better.
Yeah. I feel like this is such a like funny part of the book because it's like, was there any like chance that they weren't all gonna take it? Like, you're
Yeah,
gonna
no,
go back with the
yeah.
scary aliens or freeze to death. It's like, okay, well,
Yeah, I'm taking the Quee. But, like, also, Georgie kept being like, I need to talk to the girls to make sure they want to do this. And you're right. What is the options, though?
yeah, like
It's
they're
either die or do this.
yeah. It's like, okay, I guess I'll do it. Like,
Yeah. And it's kind of like they live happily ever
yeah, it
after.
just kind of
Like,
ends.
yeah. Like, that's so crazy, but it kind of just ends. Like, Liz has been kidnapped by one of the male aliens, but like Vectel's like, oh, don't worry, like they just
That's
resonated with
that's
each other.
just Rahash.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what?
And then they're like, yeah, there's like still the threat that like the other aliens can come back, but like it's a happily ever after, I guess.
Yeah, they like come back. They take out all their trackers and leave them in the cave with the Wookiee creatures.
Yeah,
And then they like
yeah.
see the ship come back and then leave again. So they're like, "Oh, I guess that's that." It's kind of like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I was waiting for
Do you think they'll come
something."
back? I haven't read the other books, but
I
I'm
haven't
assuming
either.
they will.
It feels like they must, because like, but then I don't know, because this type of book to me doesn't read like interplanetary like warfare.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe they do just cut their losses and
Because
bail.
literally, what would the other books be about if they did? But if they didn't come back, it's just the girls living on the
I think
island
it's literally just
or
like
the
them
planet. Oh my god!
boning with the aliens.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's so funny. I do. You're actually probably right, because if you think about it, we would get all of the women's stories from this point on. So you're right. It is probably just, but they would all be happening at the same, like simultaneously. So what would happen other than that?
Yeah, I think it's all the other women's stories. And then I know a couple of them are also like prequels. So I think it's
Yes.
like the
Yeah.
other people in the tribe, like how
Yeah.
they, got together with their mates.
Okay, cool.
But I
I
think
like
that's
that.
it. I think there's like no more drama other than like interpersonal.
It's wild. It's so wild. Again, there's like so much detail and then also just no detail at all about this book. It's the pacing, it's so weird to me.
Yeah, it's like something crazy happens on every page,
Yes.
but the book's only like 170 pages, and still
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, but I need more information. I'm like, a lot of
definitely.
stuff happens, but also nothing.
Also, nothing. Okay, let's wrap up with our roundtable discussion. This is our internet investigation, our cursory peruse of the internet of things you need to know. This was really interesting. You
Yeah.
wrote that Ruby Dixon created it as a spin-off of Star Wars, as we talked about at the top of the episode, which like it makes a lot of sense. Like it's very clear. It's like it's not even like paying homage. It's like
Yeah.
it's clearer than that.
She was like, I saw Star Wars and it's not sexy, but my
Yes.
version will be.
Yes.
That's really
Yes.
what it feels like.
Yes, like fanfic kind of Star Wars with none of the main characters.
No, it's not actually a fanfic, but like she has said that she's a Raylo fanfic fanfic fan,
Yes.
which I feel like this is like the second time this has come up with authors. I'm not sure if you guys talked about this with Ali Hazelwood at all,
Mm-hmm.
but she's
Mm-hmm.
also like a Raylo fanfic girl. It's
Yeah.
what is the deal with that ship that like all of these people latch onto it and then are so like proud to be like I'm a Raylo. Like not that, if you ship
Not
a
that
ship
you
like
yes,
you
yes.
should
Not
put your whole back into shipping it. Like
yes,
I want to
yes.
know, but it's just
Yes.
funny that they all want to talk about it so much.
Completely agree. Actually, that would be a fun bonus episode because it is interesting about like there's so much fanfic, but
Yeah.
the Dramini,
Yes.
the Twilight, and
Oh
the
yeah.
Raylo
Yeah.
stuff has I feel like has really risen to mainstream popularity versus
Yeah.
like because there's like so many different fanfics, but like especially those three kind of universes I feel like are so popular.
Yeah, and people get like famous actually writing books based on their fan
Yes.
fictions, which is
Yes.
really wild. The Harry Styles one is the funniest thing to me.
Oh
Like
yes, yes, yes. And
that is
the 1D stuff. Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I also just it's so nice because it's like these are things I like all of these things. And it's very like millennial woman, I feel like.
yeah,
But
yeah.
like I like all these things, so like I don't mind.
No, it's just funny when you like once you hear like Ali Hazelwood wrote this as a Raylo fanfic, for example, it's like then you can never for me at
Unsee
least as
it.
someone who's like watched Star Wars, it's like I can't like parse out that it's not that.
Totally.
But yeah, fanfic, I feel like it's always fun when you can read about what authors are, fans of who.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll read this quote from Reddit from Ruby that shares kind of some of the other inspo for the book. So she said the idea for Ice Planet Barbarians was a gestation of many different things and me wanting to write something completely different to refresh my brain. I deliberately made the planet crappy as hell because if it was all margaritas and sunny beaches, it would be a no-brainer about Georgie Stain. But I loved Clan of the Cave Bear as a teen. I love Star Wars and I love faded mate stories. So I sort of pulled from all of those angles.
Yeah, I love that she's so open online. Like, just like looking her up, there's like multiple Reddit AMAs that you can go read with her. She's clearly like very passionate about connecting with her fan base, which is nice.
Like there's just so much fodder. Like there's just so many books that you could cover that you're really winning in the Ice Planet Barbarian fandom, like truly.
Yeah, if you're looking for a fandom to join and you're like, I just want to read a lot of something, like this is a
Yeah,
good one because yeah, there's a ton of content here.
totally, totally. And then Ruby expressed interest in this becoming an animated show.
Yeah.
I'm like shocked that it hasn't been picked up.
Yeah, I'm like racking my brain though, trying to think of like, are there that many like sexy animated series? And I'm like,
Oh,
are people
interesting.
clamoring for it? I'm sure people would watch
Interesting.
it,
Yes.
but maybe it's just
Yes.
not mainstream. Like maybe you just kind of have to be in that realm, which I'm certainly not. But it is like, yeah, she said she would love to see it as an animated series. So,
Yeah, I think that makes so much sense. I also don't watch like any animated shows, and you're right. I know that there's adult animated shows obviously, but like yeah, I don't know about this like kind of rated R version, but I do read webtoons, and I
oh yeah.
there's such a like subgenre of like romance sexy stories that are like, cartoons that I feel like would make so much sense if they were made into a series.
Yeah, I think she said something similar to like an Archer was like what she would like. Which
That
like
makes
I think
sense.
like maybe if they went for that tone too, where
Yeah,
it's like kind
yeah.
of fun.
Well, there's a lot of comedy in this.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
is for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that Ruby Dixon like knows what she's writing. Like, I don't think she's like, I'm writing a Pulitzer here. Like, I think she's like, yeah, like the aliens are fucking and like you're gonna like it. And like, I think she knows exactly who this is for. But it'd be interesting to see an animated series too, because I'm trying to even think of like what adult animated shows are like geared towards, I mean, mainly women, I assume would be watching this. So yeah, I don't know how many there really are
That's a
or
good point
any.
because you're right. Like I think of Archer, I think of
BoJack.
BoJack, yeah, like Family Guy and stuff.
Yeah, but those are
Yeah.
all very like,
Male coded, I guess.
yeah, a little
Like,
bit.
yeah,
Or like
yeah,
m mainly male main characters too.
yeah, yeah,
So maybe it
yeah.
would work. Maybe this is like a hidden genre and like we are gonna make some people a lot of money when they realize that we've pointed out this gap in the market.
I know, I know. I truly believe that, and like I do think that there is a possibility just because of like I do think that production companies have realized like Fourth Wing and Akatar, et cetera, can make them millions of dollars. So I have like no doubt in my mind that someone has like perused
Optioned
this.
this, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
totally.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, like I would watch the first episode. I'm into it. Like I'm interested.
It would be like the show would be it would be like 1 hour and it would cover the whole book.
Yeah,
Like
a limited
yeah.
series,
Yeah.
maybe.
They could do a limited series like one book is one episode. That's like a whole season.
Yeah.
Okay, these are our Wonder Whys, our unanswered questions for the listeners. Honestly, there's so many unanswered questions.
There's a lot.
One is just yeah, like the backstory. Like even just in this one, it's like we get none of Georgie's, but it's like the other girls are literally unknown. Like,
Yeah, I don't even know if we get all of their names. I'm like
no,
struggling
no,
to remember.
totally. We get like we know Kira because of the translation thing, and like Liz talks to her a lot, the one that got
Yeah.
kidnapped, and that's it.
Dominique, but she's dead. Like,
Yeah, yeah, rip.
rest in peace. Pour one out for Dominique tonight.
Yeah. And I'm just like so confused truly at how Georgie and the girls survive. Like if the Arctic tundra that they are in is truly as bad as it's described, they would perish on sight. Like
Yeah.
and many of them like didn't even have like I feel like the will to live. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I feel
Yeah.
like none of them are like survivalists. Like this wasn't like they kidnapped all people who were on like alone or something. Like these are just random girls who
Yeah.
are from all over.
Yeah.
This actually it's kind of going on to the backstory thing, but I'm like, how would like all of these women go missing and like no one is asking any
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I know that it says they have no family and whatever, but it's like, are they all from like the same area? We know one of them is from some sort of like farming southern place because she talks a lot about that. But yeah, I feel like, someone's gonna notice eventually.
Yeah, is there like a spaceship coming to get them at some point or something like that? Maybe
Yeah.
that happens and they have to like all actually decide to stay there. Who knows?
Yeah. Who
But
knows?
they're all moms soon. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
We also
Yeah.
like don't really know, other than the Star Wars references, like does this take place in 2015 or is this like
Yeah.
Another time where like, yeah, maybe there is a spaceship coming from Earth to get them. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like we have no concept of when this is really happening.
No. I guess I'm gonna read on. I have read the second book, but I'm
Oh.
gonna and you get no more information than in this first one.
I was like,
So
enlighten me.
yeah, no, you straight up get zero information. But I'm gonna read on because I'm curious if there's anything of more substance.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just funny. I'm like, you know how some movies they like deliberately don't have cell phones so that it's like it can take place whenever. I almost feel like Ruby Dixon should have done that where she didn't reference any cultural moments and then it's like, okay, now we have no idea when this took place because that would have been interesting.
Yeah, totally. Okay, our gripes and grumbles. These are nitpicky problems we have with the book. This is like my main. This is actually just like a gripe and grumble for the whole romance genre, but like the covers, you guys, we gotta stop. Like, if I'm supposed to track these on Goodreads, I can't in good faith mark as read when it's like a girl with a blue monster like going down on her. Like, I can't do that. I truly
Yeah.
can't.
I was reading like the physical book and
Yeah.
like I was like gonna read it on like public transit. Like,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
husband was like, "Why don't you just read it on the GO train?" And I was like,
You're like,
"No,
I
like
can't.
with my child with me, people are
Yeah.
gonna think I'm insane." Like,
Yeah. Did you have the original cover? Because they did do a special edition
yeah.
and it's a lot less like.
No, I have the like full sexy cover.
Okay, okay,
I
okay.
don't know where I'm gonna put it on my shelf because like, yeah, people are gonna come over and be like, "Oh, oh, you
Yeah.
read like that."
Yes, yeah. Like people that just like don't get
Yeah.
it.
And I'm like, no, it's fun.
Yeah, yeah. People don't get it.
I'm like, you don't understand. They live in a non-capitalist society. It's like kind of sweet.
Yes, yes, yeah. There's like no crazy shit going down politically.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
God. We talked about this a lot, but it is fucking insane how this book starts. Because I
Yeah.
remember like picking up this book. I was like, I listened to it because it was always on my TBR. And then I listened to the episode that you did. And I was like, it just like was like, oh yeah, I should check that out. I like totally forgot that that's been on my TBR for like 2 years. So then I read it and I was like, oh, this like I was just blown away because when people talk about it online, they're like, this is pure fluff and like, and
Yeah.
it is after chapter like 3 or whatever, but like, or part 2 or whatever, but like part 1 is so gruesome and graphic. I kind of like honestly kind of skimmed.
Yeah. It feels unnecessary. And yeah, it just like does not fit the tone of the rest of the book. It's kind of a
Yeah.
bummer. I'm glad that Ruby like removed it from some of the copies of it because I do feel like it just like doesn't really need to be there. I guess it was to build the stakes and find like a way for the girls to escape. But yeah, it just like they could have just crashed from the pod. Like we didn't need the violence.
Totally. And I guess like it is to show that like they're a foil for the good aliens, but truly I think unnecessary.
Yeah, it's like the bad aliens were human trafficking. Like you could have just said that. That's like enough.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
makes them bad enough. They kidnapped them.
Exactly. Exactly. There was parts of this book and again, we kind of mentioned this, but like I'm like you are on a survival mission. You were like about to die. Like time is you have 8 days and like we're on day 4 or whatever. So why is there like 3 days of that where you're just okay having sex with this alien? I think that this was one of my gripes is just like it she obviously has inner turmoil. Like she's like, oh my God, the girls could be like dying back there. And I'm just like,
I'm just getting off.
I'm just getting off. But like, I'm like happy. Like,
Yeah.
but like, and fed and warm and whatever. But like, I feel like there wasn't like enough turmoil, I guess. Or like there wasn't, I don't know. It was just like there was a lot of side missions, I feel like, for Georgie when it's like you should have been pretty like
Yeah,
on the
girl,
real one.
you need to focus.
Yes,
Like,
focus.
you need to focus right now. But
Yeah.
yeah, it feels like almost they could have done something with like maybe the environment to be like, oh, it's like too snowy. We like can't go or something. We're like snowed in. But instead, yeah, it was just more like, I just want to fuck. It looks
Yeah,
like the reason that
yeah,
she did it, and it's like you gotta
yep,
have a little more drive than that, I think.
totally. You're the leader,
Yeah,
Georgie.
de facto leader. You gotta get
Yeah.
on this.
I fucking hated how Vectel
Oh my God.
called Georgie's clit a third nipple like 20 times.
Yeah. No.
I hated that. Like, I hated that.
This is like my big gripe with a lot of like smutty books is that like any description like that, I'm like, we just don't need to do that. I know he's an alien, but I'm like, please, we don't need to get creative with like our anatomy at this point. We've like,
Yeah.
we're good.
And okay, so does that mean the female aliens don't have clits? Like,
Clit?
I don't know.
And like then like we can really get into like looking at evolution, then why does he
Yeah.
have the rib on his dick if they don't have
Yeah.
clits? That doesn't
No,
make any
good. Yeah.
sense.
What? Yeah. Like, why do you have that spur thing if you don't like that's purposely
Yeah.
there? Yeah.
In the exact
100%.
place. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
maybe that's a plot hole.
Definitely.
But yeah, poor lady aliens if they don't. Maybe it's somewhere else. But
Yeah. Who knows? Oh, yeah. And just like how the girls are like, they're literally dying, but like, they're like, oh, at least, like, they just like, the only other thing that they can talk about is like, well, Georgia got like a man and is like getting laid.
yeah,
Like,
they're like working on their type five while she's like,
literally. Literally.
yeah, I don't know where that came from. I'm like, you guys are so weak, but you have the brain power to like make jokes.
It was just like whiplash. There'd be like, they would be like so unwell that they weren't even waking up. There was a point where they were just like literally unconscious. But then when they were, they were just like okay to like rip
Yeah.
rip her apart. Like so bad. And then yeah, just the ending is feels rushed.
Yeah, it just ends.
It just ends and there's yeah, we don't hear about the kidnapping aliens and we don't even know like really how the pregnancy works. Like he's
Yeah.
7 feet tall. So
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be rough.
yeah.
I mean,
Is the baby gonna be human size? Is it gonna be like a alien size? Like I just
how many fingers? Like, yeah, there's a lot of unanswered questions. I guess that's why it's like you gotta read on to find out what the baby looks like.
totally. And how did he know that? I guess the Quee told him, but it's like, how did he know he could mate a human? I guess, yeah, the Quee, but
Yeah. Maybe his Quee radar was like off though. I don't know. But he
it's
says
just,
it never
yeah.
chooses wrong.
It never chooses wrong, but I'm like, but then there's no interspecies. Like did the tribe have a plan to like find, like go to another planet and get other species if they couldn't reproduce or they just
Yeah, it
also
doesn't
were going to
seem
just
like
die out?
it doesn't seem like they had any plan at all. Yeah, it does feel like they were just hoping for some people to crash land. And they didn't
Yeah.
even know that they crash landed, it seems, from what we
Yeah.
know about Bechtel.
Yeah, yeah. And if it's like interspecies, couldn't they mate with like the Metlax or whatever? Or like,
Yeah.
I guess they're more animal than human. I don't know.
Humanoid, yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
it's just like too stinky.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, it does, or the Wookiee. Yeah, I guess the Metlax are the Wookiee things. Because like
Yeah.
Wookiees, I think are like bipedal at least. Like they do
Yes.
stand on two legs. So
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Who knows?
we'll never know. We'll never know.
We won't. Okay, finally our sequel scoop. This is the tea on any upcoming sequel seasons and the general reception. So obviously there is a shit ton of books. There's 21 books in this series, plus 2 spin-off series, making it over 40 books in the Ruby Dixon Ice Planet Barbarian universe. The next book is Barbarian Alien, which is obviously Rahash and Liz. And there is an extended epilogue of Vectel and Georgie. So I think I'm going to read that. I haven't read it. I didn't want to really like spoil myself, but
Yeah, I feel like I'll read that too. That's very cute. I might continue the series as well.
yeah.
We'll see. I
yeah.
feel like it's like it is just kind of like fluff. Like, you don't have to think too much. And it's kind of just, minus the covers part. Like if you're reading on a Kobo, Kindle, whatever, like you're golden.
Totally. Totally.
Or like maybe you just
Absolutely.
don't care, which like wow, I more power to you. I wish that I did not have anxiety about people looking
Same.
at what I'm reading.
Same. I remember when I was in like university and I was reading 50 Shades of Grey and I was like on a bus like like having the book like half in my backpack like being like I can never be seen with
You're like, oh
this.
God, I can't let people know.
Yeah.
It's a lot of books.
That's a lot of books, but yeah, I think I'm gonna try to power through. Just they're fun to sprinkle in with like other books, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm also like good for Ruby Dixon for I'm like, where do you find the time to write that many books?
Totally. And it seems like from when I was doing some internet investigation that she has no plans in stopping and has a million other ideas and it'll just continue, truly.
That's amazing. Yeah, I also read that she her husband does not read any of the books, but he occasionally helps her workshop the plot, which I thought was very sweet. I'm like, what a what a supportive husband.
That's so funny. I love that maybe there's a chance that he doesn't know what actually goes down.
I'm like thinking they're like sitting eating pad thai, and she's like, well, like, what should the alien's dick look like? And he's like, well, what if? Hear me out.
No, he's probably like, oh yeah, and then Georgie presses the button in the elder's cave. Like,
Yeah.
and like that's the plot he's giving. And then she's like, I'll fill in the blanks of the
Yeah,
other stuff.
don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry, I got this. Okay. That's kind of the end of Ice Planet Barbarians. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you want to include?
No, I think that's everything. I mean, we had a lot of gripes, but I think the book is really fun. If you think you might be interested in an alien romance, like this one is very short, and yeah, I do think you can kind of power through it in like a day. So
Totally.
it's definitely like a fun book. Yeah, don't go in thinking it's gonna be change your life or anything, but
No,
maybe
no.
it will. Maybe it'll like
Actually,
awaken something for
I was just
someone.
gonna say it also could very much change your life.
Yeah, or again, if you're like, I'm sick of men, I want to like read some like very loving big alien man porn, then like this is the book for
Totally.
you. I actually did
Totally.
find on Reddit when I was like reading a lot of the AMA questions, a lot of people identified that they're like, oh, I'm a queer woman and I love these books. And my friend who suggested that I read this book is also a queer woman. So
Interesting.
very funny that that's like a big, I don't know, it feels like that's like a big audience for this book too. So
That's so
interesting to note.
funny.
Love a sapphic romance.
Yes. Okay. Can you tell the listeners, Kelly, where they can find you and anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, I'm on the internet at Kelly W. Kelly like Kelly, the word double and the word Uyou. I like sometimes post on TikTok about what I'm reading. Sometimes I post about running. And then I also hosted a Nathan Fielder focused podcast called Nathan for Us podcast. It's on hiatus right now, but if you are interested in Nathan for You or The Rehearsal, we did cover a bunch of the episodes and it's very fun. We also had a couple interviews with people on the show. So if you want to
Nice.
listen to that, you can find us all over wherever you find podcasts.
Nice. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This was great.
I'm glad. And that's the story of Ice Planet Barbarians. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to Kelly for joining me on today's show. This episode gets released on Wednesday, December 4th, but a few days after that, I'll be on the podcast Boobies and Newbies with author Kelly Reynolds to discuss the holiday novella My December Darling by Lauren Asher. If you remember, Kelly and I covered The Fine Print by Lauren Asher in the first few episodes of this podcast. So check both of those episodes out. And if you would like to suggest a book or leave a voicemail with a question for a future episode, you can do so via the links in the episode show notes. You can also follow me on socials at Ready to Be Romanced. And subscribing to the podcast and leaving a rating and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts really helps the show grow, find new listeners, and lets me know that I'm right on track. Our next episode is A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. Until then, happy reading. For Ready to Be Romanced, I'm Tori. Goodbye.